First up, I want to know about you, your family, your hobbies.
Sure. Well, I have been in Southern Nevada for 28 years now. Goes by fast, doesn't it? Have two kids. They're not babies anymore, 17 and 14, a girl and a boy. And the senior is getting ready to go to college next year, so it's going to break my heart, but I'm excited for her next adventure.
Sounds good. Tell us about your hobbies, because I know you're very active.
Oh, well, I do enjoy exercise very much, so there are different forms that takes on. During the summers, we'll go hiking and biking, and in the winter, I'm at the gym. I do a little bit of swimming, not a lot. But yeah, just really appreciate it. I read the great book that's called Younger Next Year, and they said the older you get, the more important you got to start thinking of exercise as your job. Not your job as your job so much, but exercise as your job, so I take that to heart.
That's interesting. I'd like to know who's had the most impact on you.
Who's been my influencer over the years?
Exactly.
It started off, my first job here in Southern Nevada was at the airport, and at the time the director of aviation was a guy named Mr. Bob Broadbent.
Yes.
And he was the very first one. I was very young, and in my early 20s, and he taught us, those of us who were interns, that our job as county employees was, stewards of taxpayer dollars, and the community always came first in all of our decisions, and that really stuck with me throughout my career. Later in my career, Pat Mulroy, the former general manager of the Water Authority, became a mentor, and again, she made it really clear to me, you have an organizational chart, you report to a board, but in the end, who you really report to is the community. Because if you've got the community's back, in the end, the community's going to have your back, and they're going to make sure that you're a symbiotic relationship doing the right thing.
So those are great names. Those are great people to have been impacted by, that's for certain. I kind of want to get into a little bit about your journey.
Sure.
Your journey and how you became general manager of the RTC.
Uh-huh. So, probably fairly typical. I started out at the airport as an intern. And what's really funny is in between my junior and senior year of college, that was how I got introduced to McCarran Airport. I came out here for a 3-month period just to earn college credits. Like many of us, there was so much opportunity and a sense of optimism here in Southern Nevada because we were growing, we were booming. We got to be involved in things that we never would have got to be if we were in a different community. That it became addictive, and then all of a sudden you realize one day, oh my gosh, I'm not going anywhere. I live here. 2 years became 4 years, became 5 years. And so one day you wake up and you realize, I live here. So if I'm going to live here, in my role at least, I'm going to do everything that I can to create a sense of community that people don't want to move away from when they move here. So I've kind of been on a mission to do that ever since.
We'll be back with another segment with Tina Quigley from the RTC in a moment.
Not to brag or anything, but I did that. I did that too. And that. Okay, so maybe I am bragging. I'm kind of a big deal around here.
Hello and welcome back. We're here with Tina Quigley, General Manager of the RTC. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what the RTC does that maybe people don't know about?
Sure.
I mean, we know there's buses and transport, but what about the things that are...
Okay. So I think most of the time when people think of the RTC, they think of public transportation, whether that's fixed route or paratransit. But we're also, we're the only transportation agency in the United States that I know of that is the Public Transit Agency, and then also the ITS agency, meaning it stands for Intelligent System of Transportation, or Transportation System, anything having to do with technology and managing traffic, so traffic signals, dynamic message signs, cameras, that's under our umbrella as well. We're also the Metropolitan Planning Organization, so we work with different cities and county to prioritize where the money's going to go for our coordinated network of roads.
Wow.
So kind of all, and then some Southern Nevada Strong, which is our regional plan. It's administrated through the RTC. So it's kind of this umbrella of lots of different transportation components that normally would be different agencies in other communities. You would have one agency for transit, one agency for planning, one agency for the technology part, which it gives us a lot of ability to leverage those different components to really advance different efforts in a coordinated manner. And
probably gives you the opportunity to impact more.
It
It's all
does.
there.
It does. We're very lucky we don't have to have interlocal agreements with all these different
Right.
agencies. We can leverage all of our assets to advance efforts. And I'll give you an example. We are currently partnered with a small Israeli startup company that is piloting a program along I-15 to predict when the next accident is going to occur. It uses all kinds of historical data, meteorological data, even what types of conventions are in town, and then tracks other data associated with our own fleet vehicles to be able to give us a heads up as to where an accident might happen, which allows us to get emergency response kind of queued up so that when there is something that happens, we're that much faster to respond.
Wow.
Even before the 911 calls comes in, we can already be responding and deploying with Nevada Highway Patrol and other emergency responders. So yeah, they're leveraging all the assets we have under this transportation umbrella. It allows us to advance different technology efforts a lot quicker otherwise. So our partnership with Audi allows the driver to know how many more seconds before a traffic light turns green. And that just means that the driver then can pick up the baby's bottle off the floor, maybe take a bite of the sandwich, but then it alerts you 4 seconds before that light turns green, so you know, head back in the game. That light's gonna turn green and I gotta be alert. And the more alert our drivers are, the more cars we can get through a traffic light because everybody's not distracted. They're paying attention.
So tell us about Onboard.
Sure. So Onboard is the largest effort at community engagement that I've ever been involved in. So Onboard is about taking a look at our transit system, traditional transit, emerging technologies, high capacity transit, taking a look at all the world of transit modes and our needs throughout Southern Nevada for the next 30 years. We are engaging the public, engaging stakeholders, talking to community leaders, talking to groups about what is it that you would like to see in the next few decades related to transit investments. So
there is an area for the community to participate.
Oh yeah, so we do go out regularly to all types of community events. If anybody wants to invite us to come out to their event, we'll do it. We'd love to. We actually have a bus, an old RTC vehicle that we've converted into kind of an office space where we have a bunch of iPads. We'll bring people in and ask them to take a quick survey, just letting us know about what are their priorities, how do they travel right now, how would they like to travel from work to home to work and throughout the community, so that a wonderful planner that I know out of Phoenix once told me, if you want to be successful at your plans, you do not put the pointy-headed planners in the room and tell them to come up with a plan. Yep. You go out into the community and you find out, what does your community want?
That's right.
It is, yes.
That's powerful.
Very powerful, because only then are you going to be successful. Only then are you going to be investing in systems that your community wanted.
Exactly. We'll be back with another segment with Tina Quigley from the RTC in a moment.
You think your job sucks? I got this one at Project Neon. This one, 215 Airport Connector. And this, EDC. Don't ask. What was her name?
We're going to get into fuel revenue indexing.
Motor vehicle tax had been flat since for us in the mid-90s, and so and of course the cost of labor and construction has increased significantly, but that is our primary source of funding for roadway infrastructure. So in last November, we asked the voters, would you like to continue the concept of tying motor vehicle fuel tax to inflation? We are lucky that it had overwhelming support. And so that is going to allow us to have about, the RTC alone will have about $1.6 billion worth of work over the next 10 years, or worth of bonding ability to bond for projects in Southern Nevada over the next 10 years. What this means is a lot of maintenance. It means we're going to be able to undertake a lot of maintenance of roads, add some capacity to roads, put some more fiber in roads, which again allows us to deploy technology as part of our infrastructure, and then create some safety projects, especially around schools and sidewalks, etc. So a very big deal. The nice thing is that we don't have to rely on solely on the federal government at this point to continue to fund our roadway infrastructure. As you know, we still haven't seen a transportation program come out of Washington, D.C. It's been delayed and delayed. And I know there are a lot of cities who that's kind of nail biting, right? To not know when and where that next round of funding is going to come, especially as it relates to jobs.
Of course.
So having this fuel revenue indexing asset allows us to create jobs and allows us to continue to grow this community.
I think you guys did a great job in getting community organizations like ourselves.
You guys were great.
Yeah. So how important was it to pass this legislation?
The community partnership you never could pass a ballot question like that without leaders such as yourselves going out and explaining to your members and to your neighbors why this is important, right? Nobody wants to vote for a tax, right? You see a tax, you're like, no, I don't need that. But that's why it was so important to have strong business leaders go out who people trust to go out and communicate. Look, this means jobs. This means that we continue to grow. This means that in terms of economic development, we look attractive to new businesses and businesses that want to grow.
And they pay attention to this.
Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, Amazon made it very clear when they were doing their application that transportation infrastructure and transit were two things they'd be looking at.
Is there any progress yet in FRI projects?
We started collecting the FRI 2 rounds in July of this year, and it's already, I think, the millions of dollars that's been amassed. So now the public works departments will start to be letting out contracts, and you'll see contracts coming to both in terms of design and engineering and construction. Which,
by the way, means people will be going back to work, spending those dollars that they earned in our community, and so it has real ramifications.
Reinvesting, yeah, it is. It's a neat program, and other cities and states look at us and are very jealous. I've had many people come and ask, how did you get that passed? How did you get that passed? And I have to tell them the secret sauce is you partner with your community leaders, because they're the ones who will go out and educate. If they believe in the effort, they will go out and educate and advocate for it.
Of course. That's incredible. Well, we will be back with our last segment with Tina Quigley in a moment.
The RTC launched a smartphone application, Ride RTC, that allows customers to find their bus, plan a trip, purchase their passes, and get on board with ease. The Ride RTC Transit app is available for Android and Apple customers. So, next time you're in Las Vegas, jump on board RTC Transit and enjoy the ride.
Hello and welcome back. We're here with Tina Quigley, General Manager of the RTC. Tina, tell us how the Hispanic community has kind of benefited from RTC projects.
Well, or how has the RTC benefited from Hispanics as part of our projects as well? Yeah, I mean, so to ask how are Hispanics and RTC involved, would be like, what's the role of flour in cake? I mean, it's both small, but I mean, in terms of workforce, Hispanics make up a very large portion of our workforce. And then in terms of small businesses, and I read this great book, and I think you've read it too, called The Coming Jobs War. And it's a little bit, it's written by Jim Clifton, who's head of Gallup. And that whole book was about the role of small businesses in a community's overall economy and economic health. The stronger the small business community was in any metropolitan area, the healthier and the stronger economy.
Of course.
Yes. So it's something we have a lot of Hispanic small businesses, and those are the types of things we really need to be growing and nurturing if we want to have a strong economy. So.
Are Hispanic-owned construction companies doing business with RTC?
We do. We have, and we have some small Hispanic that we've actually had the opportunity of mentoring and working with, helping them increase their bonding capacity, et cetera, so that they can kind of have a stronger presence in the horizontal construction world.
And that's kind of what we do here as well.
I know you do. Yeah, we work with you. We've partnered with you on stuff. Yeah.
And that way, contracts and the community is better served.
Right.
How can the local small business community do business with the RTC? What's the process?
So one of the things, you want to make sure that you are registered with us so that we know, and you can go to our website and you'll want to take a look at the jobs that we do have coming up. We work regularly with Latin Chamber, with some of the other chambers, to do some matchmaking in terms of the talent that we've got out there with small businesses and the work that's coming up, so that we can marry some of the larger prime companies with some of the smaller businesses. Exactly. And there's some learning and some synergies that go on there. But I'd say first thing thing is to make sure you go to our website and that we are aware of you, what it is that your business does, bonding capacity, etc., and then see how we can't get you in the mix.
And I think that's important. I mean, small businesses need to understand that there is a process. That doesn't mean you can't get into the process, but you have to know about bonding and capacity.
You
and things
do.
of that nature.
I mean, you have to be. Work doesn't get handed out. You have to be a competent business as well. But our job is to find those that are competent businesses and make sure that they have any opportunities that we can make available to them.
What is the
And
future?
you guys do a good job of that too. That's what you do.
Oh, we try.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we want to be a part of this community. You know, and want to help. What's the future of the RTC?
My new tagline right now is technology is the new asphalt.
Wow.
Yeah, think about it.
Technology is the new asphalt.
Because there are certain corridors where we just cannot build our way out of congestion, and yet Jeremy Aguero, our local economist, tells us that we have we can see 25% increase over the next 8 to 10 years in our tourism numbers as well as in our residential base. And it's going to be in some corridors. I don't see how we fit another 25%. So I really look forward to partnering with small businesses and startups also in the technology realm of how do we eke out more capacity through the roads that we do have? How do we make use, just leverage everything that we've already got before we go out and build some more? Or we are going to have to build more in certain areas, but there are some corridors as well where I don't think we can do much more building. We're going to manage it otherwise.
And more importantly, Tina, what about your future?
My future?
What's in your future?
I am having so much fun, Peter, in my job right now. I work with an amazing team of people, and I know you know them. You've worked with them as well. High energy, aggressive, forward thinking, and it's just, my cup is so filled just by getting to work with these people and our community partners. So I love my job.
That's excellent. It shows. Folks, I hope you have enjoyed this show of Influencers with Tina Quigley in the RTC. What I know about Tina is she lives, eats, and breathes transportation. And I hope we can do this again.
I'd love to.